first kind of guy. She said they had sex in the missionary position and that Trump told her she reminded him of his daughter. Feels like we should lock him up just for that, right?
Trump's character was scrutinized by Stormy Daniels, revealing some disturbing traits that must be difficult for his family to cope with. Melania Trump's behavior appears to be deteriorating with no signs of progress. He is no longer a serious contender for presidency and has become a laughingstock. During Stormy's courtroom drama, Jimmy Kimmel used his comedic talent to add his own humorous spin, taking jabs at Trump's antics. Trump's actions provide endless material for comedians like Jimmy, who used his usual wit to roast the former president. Phew! What a stormy day for our favorite ex-president. Jimmy joked from his Hollywood studio, aka exited F, during the Donald Trump hush money trial.
Today called their star witness, their porn star witness, Stormy Daniels, took the stand this morning. And for Donald, I can only imagine the nervous farting was off the charts.
The comedian happily recounted his latest court appearance and how he was mentioned in it. He shared how prosecutors questioned Stormy Daniels about her interview on his show and how they scrutinized her signature on a letter created by someone associated with Trump. Daniels admitted to changing her signature as a playful signal to the comedian, whom she jokingly referred to as Cohen's trial equivalent. The comedian then provided a sneak peek into their exchange.
Original statement, the signature on the original statement does not match the signature on this statement. And I went through my library of photographs of you to compare it to headshots that you have signed.
In reference to Stormy Daniels' court testimony, Jimmy made a witty comment about her playing me like a fiddle. He also pointed out that Stormy testified for a total of 3 hours and 44 minutes, starting with an uncomfortable moment where Bias swore at her using a rolled-up Forbes magazine. Jimmy added some humor to the situation by describing Trump's instinctive outburst during the testimony, where he exclaimed, "I'm a bad boy, mommy." Furthermore, Jimmy sarcastically commented on the judge's directive that Stormy could discuss her relationship with Trump, but not delve into details, stating that they definitely need to know the details for the sake of his show. In conclusion, Jimmy ended with a lighthearted remark about eventually getting some of those private details.
Stormy said their encounter was brief and that Trump did not wear a condom, which is not surprising. He also stared directly into an eclipse. Not exactly a safety first kind of guy. She said they had sex in the missionary position and that Trump told her she reminded him of his daughter. Feels like we should lock him up just for...
Jimmy humorously recounted a story about Trump referring to Stormy as honey bunch, a term also used by Melania at Mar-a-Lago, albeit in a different context involving FBI visits. He then made light of the prosecutor's assurance to the judge that Stormy's testimony would not detail Trump's genitalia, suggesting viewers seek such content on YouTube instead. Jimmy likened the updates on the case to the letters found in a Penthouse magazine and shared a scenario from Stormy's testimony where she was surprised to find Trump waiting in his bedroom, dressed only in boxers and a t-shirt after she emerged from the bathroom.
Stormy Daniels says she came out of the bathroom and found that Trump was in the bedroom waiting for her. In his boxer shorts and a t-shirt, she'd been planning to go. She said he was seated on the bed between her.
Stormy recounted a story of Trump's toiletry supplies containing Old Spice deodorant and a bottle of Purr. Jimmy made a witty comment about how those products might explain Trump's voluminous hair. Additionally, Jimmy brought up another example of Trump's questionable actions, recalling how Trump suggested putting Stormy on The Apprentice during their affair. Stormy was worried about being eliminated in the first round, but Trump offered her insider information on the challenges. Jimmy found it ironic that Trump, who often complains about rigged situations, would offer to manipulate his own show for personal entertainment.
Another fun detail, Trump watched Stormy's testimony on the courtroom monitor rather than looking at her directly. It was odd, because especially when he was looking at the monitor, he tried to fast forward to the sex scenes.
Trump seemed shaken after hearing the first half of Stormy's testimony. During the lunch break, he took to social media to express his frustration in all caps. Trump's lawyers argued that Stormy's testimony was unfair to him and made it difficult for the jury to remain impartial. Jimmy then made a joke about the image Stormy painted of Trump in the missionary position, questioning how anyone could move past it. Later on, Jimmy teased Trump for making a fuss about not being allowed to attend Barron's graduation, despite the judge never actually prohibiting him from going. The judge even allowed him to attend.
The day Barron is graduating in Florida, Trump is headlining an event in Minnesota. I guess Dad's not going to make the post-graduation brunch. Sorry, son, I have to go scream about windmills for 2 hours. And then we have Chris.
As Jimmy switched gears, he playfully directed his humor towards Governor Kristi Noem on her big day, acknowledging the inevitable roast that comes with it. He jokingly labeled her as the #1, or Kennedy of the Paw Patrol, poking fun at her controversial stances. Speculating about her chances as a potential running mate for Trump, Jimmy suggested that her reputation as a puppy shooter might have hurt her prospects. However, he couldn't help but acknowledge her knack for diverting attention from other scandals, humorously giving her credit for that. Jimmy then moved on to compare her with Mike Pence, commenting on the increasingly bizarre nature of his story. He joked about Noem distancing herself from her own autobiography, describing it as the perfect gift for those interested in traditional conservative values or contemplating a career as a serial killer. He teased about Noem's first book, where she considered sharing her dog shooting saga, but the publishers advised against it due to potential political consequences. Jimmy humorously agreed with the publisher's assessment. Finally, he likened Noem to Cruella de Vil, the infamous antagonist from 101 Dalmatians, and described her current media tour where right-wing news personalities like Eric Bolling of Newsmax are scrambling to interview her. In search of a solution that could ease the negative consequences of her disputed behavior, Jimmy joked that the editor humorously referred to her as a phildendron employed by the Biden crime family.
I've also written a couple of books, and I know how the process works. You write some chapters. You don't write the whole book at once. You write a chapter or two. You send it to the editors, and they edit. They read it. They add. They subtract. And here's my question. The editor, was she possibly a...
Yes. The editor was a plant.
During his comedy show, the comedian took on the controversial topic of Governor Noem's book, where she had claimed to have met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. According to the book, Noem had even bragged about how she had told him off. However, it was later revealed that the entire incident was a complete lie. As a result, the passage was removed from the book. Jimmy, the comedian, then lightheartedly mocked Governor Noem's attempts to deflect questions about meeting with Kim Jong-un, comparing her to Meryl Ree and Caliber's verbal gymnastics. He humorously suggested that she was struggling to explain herself and even imitated her responses. His mocking of her evasion tactics was spot on, and it was a perfect replica of Trump's own deflective behavior. The audience erupted in laughter as Jimmy continued to poke fun at Governor Noem's lies. He even went so far as to suggest that she might be taking lessons from the former president himself, who was well known for his evasive tactics and for lying to the public. Despite the lighthearted tone of Jimmy's comedy routine, it was clear that he was making a serious point about the importance of honesty in politics. He argued that politicians who lie to the public are doing a disservice to the people they are supposed to represent, and that they should be held accountable for their actions. His message was well received by the audience, who cheered and applauded as he left the stage.
I know you're a follower of God. I know you can quote the Bible. Meanwhile, because of the story, the leftist media has you out there killing Fido.
No. We don't have you out there killing Fido. You killed Fido.
After Kimmel finished his previous tease, he couldn't wait to dive into another passage from Chris's book. He was ready to unleash his full comedic prowess and roast her with his signature style. Chris had been nervously anticipating this moment, knowing that Kimmel's wit could be both hilarious and brutal. The passage that Kimmel had selected was one that Chris had been hesitant to include in her book. It was a painful memory from her childhood, one that had haunted her for years. But she knew that it was a story that needed to be told, no matter how difficult it was to share. As Chris listened to Kimmel read the passage, she could feel her heart racing. The memory was still so vivid. Even after all these years, she could see her mother's tear-streaked face, hear her cries of anguish as they chased after the crazed animal. The image of Chryssit, the family's pet ferret, darting around the yard, snatching up one chicken after another, was both terrifying and surreal. It was like something out of a horror movie. Chris had never seen anything like it before, and she hoped she never would again. As Kimmel finished reading the passage, he looked up at Chris with a mischievous grin. "Wow, that's some pretty intense stuff," he said. "I mean, I've heard of killer bees, but killer ferrets? That's a whole new level of scary." Chris couldn't help but laugh at Kimmel's joke, despite the painful memory that it brought up. She knew that humor was often the best way to cope with difficult situations, and she was grateful to have Kimmel there to help her through it. As the show continued, Chris felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had shared her story with the world, and despite the fear and vulnerability that it had brought brought up, she knew that it was worth it. She had faced her demons head on and come out the other side stronger for it.
Personal meetings with world leaders.
So maybe you did have a conversation with Kim, but you don't want to talk.
I will not talk about my personal conversations with any world leaders.
That's right. I will only write about it in my book. And then immediately.
During his late-night talk show, Jimmy Kimmel took a playful jab at the annual Met Gala. He made a pointed observation that resonated with former President Donald Trump. In his humorous remark, "Sokispodin," Kimmel suggested that Trump should have been invited to the event due to its theme of sleeping beauties. This was in reference to Trump's frequent naps in courtrooms during his hush money trials. However, Trump's legal challenges are no laughing matter. They stem from his past blunders and questionable decisions. These legal battles have been ongoing and have garnered significant attention from the media and the public. Despite his efforts to dismiss the charges, Trump has faced numerous lawsuits and investigations related to his business dealings, his tax returns, and his alleged involvement in the Capitol riot. The outcome of these legal challenges remains uncertain, but they have undoubtedly tarnished Trump's reputation and legacy. As the investigations continue, it remains to be seen whether he will be held accountable for his actions. Regardless of the outcome, it is